Today, we start our tour in Medford, Oregon underneath the McAndrews Overpass as we watch the 2:02 a.m. Medford switcher on duty in Medford, Oregon at 0700 except Sundays. Here we watch as the switcher is shuffling boxcars around in preparation for switching out timber products. And then they are going to make a quick sprint to switch a refrigerator car out at Sabroso. The 3864 started out life as a Jeep 40 for the Milwaukee Road as their number 2000. She then went on to EMD and became EMD Leaser 194, and then to LLPX as their 2501. She was rebuilt by BMW to GP38-3 specs, retaining its Jeep 40 car body, and leased to Railtex in 1999. In the year 2000, she was acquired by the Central Oregon and Pacific Railroad. This is the Wigwag at 11th Street in downtown Medford, Oregon. The surrounding buildings here are former pear packing houses. At one time, these packing houses used PFE reefers, and now it's being all done by truck. The 11th Street Wigwag was removed by the Central Railroad and Pacific, now under Genesee and Wyoming control, and was moved to the Medford Railroad Park. Here we see Corp 38-3, 3807, and 3805 gathering their train together to head north. I really enjoyed taking these clips at night in the wintertime. The lumber mills always produce a nice steam that hovered over the yard and made for very dramatic shots. When Job 505 would reach Medford, it would be dark in the wintertime. The Central Oregon Pacific Medford to Glendale hauler, Job 504, would come on duty in Medford, Oregon at 10 a.m. The train would take cars from Medford to Glendale and swap with trains 503 and 506. Train 504 would become Job 505, the Glendale to Medford hauler. This is a continuation of Job 504. Here we see Job 504 departing in the morning, eastbound compass north out of Medford, led by Corp 3807, trailed by Corp 3811, and with Corp 3805 bringing up the rear of the lash up. The Central Oregon Pacific Road is a Class II railroad operating between Northern California and Eugene, Oregon. It was previously a main line owned by the Southern Pacific Railroad between Eugene and Meade, California, via Medford, Oregon. The Southern Pacific sold the route in December 31st, 1994, in favor of using its route to Eugene via Klamath Falls, Oregon and the Cascades Summit. The main line of Corp is 305 miles, with traffic consisting mostly of lumber products. Corp today is a subsidiary of Genset and Wyoming, but at the time this film was shot, its parent company was Rail America. Corp also operated the 136-mile Coos Bay branch, another line once owned by the Southern Pacific. May 17, 2007, Corp was awarded the Silver E.H. Harriman Award in Group C for the Railroad Safety Record in 2006. This award marked the first time Rail America-owned property had earned a Harriman Award. The night that this clip was taken, I'd gotten word that the Central Oregon and Pacific creamsicles that were stored serviceable in Eugene, Oregon at the time, but in 2010 they were reactivated and started making revenue moves on the Central Oregon and Pacific. Here we see Corp 3805, Corp 3811, and Corp 3807, as they had light power to the north end of Medford Yard to pick up their train that was built by the switcher the previous day. After they hook onto their train, they will do an air test and then depart north for Glendale. Corp 3807, built as Western Railway of Alabama as a Jeep 40, built for the Western Railway of Alabama. The locomotive was retired in 1997 and sold to Helm Leasing as CSX 6796 and was rebuilt in 1998. The locomotive was leased to Railtex and then relettered to Corp 3807 by Rail America in 2000. Corp 3811 was built in 1969 for the Southern Railway as their 2726, later to become Norfolk Southern 2726. She was then later sold and rebuilt by VMV in 1998 and became a leaser for LLPX as their 2005, then being acquired by Rail America and renumbered to Corp 3811. Corp 3804. Built as C&O 4828, the locomotive never received a chassis system livery. With the formation of CSX in 1986, the locomotive was painted and renumbered to CSX 2128 in September of 1986, and then retired by CSX in 1997 and traded to LLPX as CSX 2128, and in 1997 was rebuilt Jeep 38-3 specs, and in 1998 started revenue service leased to Railtex in 1998 to the CBNS as their 3804, and then later moved to the IORY as their 3804, and then renumbered to Corp 3804 in 1999. And then in the year 2000, the locomotive was formally acquired by Rail America. We see Corp 3811, Corp 3804, and Corp 3823 shoving their train onto the main for the 504 job that would come on duty that night and take the train north. In the summertime, Corp would flip-flop their schedules so that the day trains became night trains due to fire risk and order from the fire service. We now move north to Central Point, Oregon. Here we see the 504 rolling through Central Point, Oregon in the afternoon. C Corp 3811 heading north light to pick up interchange cars with the White City Terminal switcher. Central Point, Oregon was one of my favorite spots to take night shots because of all the surrounding lights. Corp 3803 was built for the Southern Railway in 1970 as a Jeep 38, and then acquired by NS in 1982 and was rebuilt by VMV and leased to Railtex, and later was acquired by Rail America. Here we see the 504 job heading north, approaching Tolo, a Y that branches off the Siskiyou line and heads east to White City to the WCTU. The WCTU was built in 1954 to run from White City, Oregon to a connection with the Southern Pacific just north of Medford. For the first 20 years, they operated under the name White City Terminal and Utility. In 1974, the line was bought by the Union Tank Car Line, UTLX, who changed the name to WCUT Railway. The railroad used WCTR reporting marks on their locomotives. The WCTR parent company, UTLX, had been acquired by Berkshire Hathaway, who then purchased the Energy Group in Iowa, then had its own common carrier short line. When Berkshire Hathaway then purchased the BNSF, it dawned on them that they now owned 3 common carriers without first obtaining federal approval. To prevent this development from collapsing their BNSF deal, Berkshire Hathaway quickly accepted an offer from CN engineer Scott DeVeers to buy the WCTR. Scott then reorganized the company as the Rogue Valley Terminal Railroad in 2013. In August of 2010, an emergency train was dispatched out of Medford for an emergency trip up north. Corp Jeeps 3803 and 3819 were lashed together in a haste and headed north. The train was comprised of 2 Jeeps and 2 water cars, ex-Southern Pacific. The water cars were added because by order of the fire service, any trains running on Corp in the daytime had to have water cars to reduce risk of forest fires. The train stops at Tolo for the power to be split up and wide for the motors to be back to back to make it easier on the crew.
Totally naked with that one.
Goldray Dam was once one of my favorite places to photograph Central Oregon Pacific trains. Today we see train 504 taking its train northbound. In 1902, work started on the original Gold Ray Dam built by Colonel Frank H. Ray and his brother, Dr. C.R. Ray. The brothers inspected a gold mine in southern Oregon for possible purchase. With a positive report, the two brothers bought the Brandon mine near the town of Gold Hill in the Rogue Valley, with the rights to power a site to be constructed on the Rogue River to supply the mine with electricity. When completed, the dam was 17 feet tall, 350 feet long. Electricity first flowed over the wires in 1904. The plant produced hydroelectric power for nearly 70 years, and the utility company closed the facility in 1972. In late 2009, the county awarded a contract to be conducted in the environmental assessment on the potential demolition of the 105-year-old dam. The study had to be completed by 2010. The study reviewed three alternatives: no action, the dam's removal, or rebuilding the current structure. The power, once so necessary for the area's development, had become an environmental problem. An estimated 400,000 cubic yards of silt, mud, trapped by the dam could contain 400,000 cubic yards of silt and muck trapped by the dam could contain heavy metals or other contaminants such as mercury, arsenic, and parasites. Removal of the concrete and original crib of the dam was completed in September 2010. With the removal of Gold Ray Dam, the Rogue River flowed easily for the first time in 106 years to the Pacific Ocean, a distance of 157 miles. Corp 3805 was built for the V&O as 3824, and then the locomotive was brought under CSX ownership before being sold to Rail America. In the dwindling twilight, we see Job 504 pass Gold Ray Dam for a northbound run with Mount McLaughlin, also known as Mount Pitt, in the background. Now we move forward to Gold Hill, Oregon. We see Job 504 rounding the curb on the trestle. My friend Larry, who would take me out rail fanning sometimes on the Central Oregon and Pacific, can be a jokester, and he thought it would be funny to walk into my frame. And it was funny. just north of Gold Hill, is a location that I like to call Knife River, for the Knife River plant right off the highway beyond the crossing. It is a good spot to watch trains roll by at speed on the Siskiyou line. Here we see the rescue train, northbound, for one last time that day. River to watch train 504 roll through. This may look like a regular shot, but the camera was set up on the footing of one of the semaphores that were set up in Rogue River. The semaphores were removed in 2001, and in late 2002, semaphores 465.0 and 465.1 were disconnected from the track circuitry and their blades defaulted to stop, and orders were issued for trains to ignore their indications. Their service life was over for the semaphores, but for semaphore 465.1, it was delivered to Larry Tuttle's property and still stands there today in operation on his property. Today, in 2023, a few signals still stand on the Siskiyou line, but all semaphores and wood flags have all since been retired. We continue with watching the 504 make its way northbound out of Rogue River. Cow Creek Canyon is literally out in the middle of God country of southwest Oregon. Larry picked me up in Medford, and we took off north, following the 504 until we got to Glendale, where we were greeted by both creamsicles on job 503, the 3818 and the 3819. As they departed Glendale, the dragger got them, and the train had to come to a complete stop and be inspected. The inspection took over an hour and a half.
Milepost 516.5. Stop your train. Stop your train. Dragging equipment.
This was my favorite shot of the day as the train navigated Cow Creek Canyon and the train entered into Tunnel 2 and then onto the BLM road crossing. Corp 3818 and Corp 3819, former Colorado and Wyoming Railway Jeep 38-2s, were built for the Colorado and Wyoming in 1973 and then later sold to Rail America, and they became Corp 5001 and Corp 5002. Later changed to Corp 3818 and Corp 3819. As the Central Oregon Pacific continued, by September of 2010, all but one of the Jeep 38-3s were still in service on the Siskiyou line. The railroad opted to use GP20Ds that operate similarly to a Genset locomotive. With more efficient motors, the switchers would turn out to be an upset for the railroad. They did not play nice with the Jeep 38-3s. Rail America did test the locomotives over Siskiyou Pass. The locomotives turned out to be operational nightmares. All of them were painted blue with white stripes except for the 2005, which received a full Railtex livery. It was quite a sight to see. GP20D 2005 here is switching out Medford Yard and then heading south with one lone reefer for Sabroso, and then returning back with another loaded refrigerator car. Corp 3809 was built in 1969 for the Southern Railway as their 2719, later to become Norfolk Southern 2719. In 1998, the Locomotive was purchased by LLPX and rebuilt by V&B. It was later sold to Rail America and became Corp 3809. Thank you very much for giving this documentary a watch on the Siskiyou line from my home videos that I took when I was a teenager. I do apologize for some of the shaky and oversaturated camera work. I hope you enjoyed this feature. A full documentary for the Central Oregon and Pacific in the Genesee and Wyoming era is currently in the works. A big thank you to everyone who helped in the making of this documentary. Thank you for watching this V&O Productions film.